Everyone's waiting to see what's going to happen here, whether the US will get involved and whether that's going to send this escalation to the next level.
What's weighing more heavily on investors? News of the cancelled meeting between Donald Trump and Anthony Albanese, or the conflict between Iran and Israel?
I think the meeting with Albo being cancelled is a bit of a sideshow. I mean, what's dominating news flow at the moment is around the conflict and whether the US will get involved or will not get involved. Obviously, the rumour mills went into overtime with Donald Trump leaving the G7 meeting early and saying that he's going to attend a NCS meeting. So again, everyone's waiting to see what's going to happen here, whether the US will get involved and whether that's going to send this escalation to the next level.
Are investors buying Donald Trump's declaration that Iran isn't winning this conflict, and perhaps the implication that Israel has already won?
It's really hard to make a call on that at this point in time, but I think what we can say is financial markets are ignoring the potential for escalation further than what's happening at the moment. So far the markets are behaving very normally. What we look for is a functioning bond market and liquidity, and that is very much in control at the moment. So far the market is looking through this. Obviously the US getting involved takes it to the next level, but again, the markets are saying we're just going to trade through this. We don't think it will escalate within the region.
And so how does that reaction compare to previous outbreaks of hostilities in the Middle East? Is the reaction somewhat similar?
Yeah, I mean, the reaction so far has been very similar. You get a sudden rise in the gold price, a sudden rise in the oil price, but quite often these moves are faded within a few days, sometimes weeks, predominantly because these issues do flare up, but common sense prevails and we normally get a pretty good outcome in the end. But again, everyone's waiting to see if the US will get involved. If the US doesn't get involved, a lot of these moves we're seeing in gold and oil will likely come off in the short term.
Okay. So you do expect that within a few days, investors may start to price in the prospect of a longer drawn-out conflict?
Yeah, I mean, it's really centred around the US involvement. Obviously, Israel have been signalling they are not finished, they will keep going. Whether Donald Trump can get the people in Tehran to get to the table or not is the big debate we're having at the moment. So the debate is whether that will happen. We think it will happen. He's sort of putting a bit of pressure on them at the moment around talk of sending B-2s in with bunker busters. So he's really putting the squeeze play on Iran. Will that get them to the table? We're going to see in the next 24 hours. So that is a big thing to happen in the next 24 hours. Just
briefly, you did label it as a bit of a sideshow, Anthony Albanese's cancelled meeting with Donald Trump, which of course was put off on account of the president's early exit from the G7. Does that mean that the market isn't fearing implications for the Australian government's chances of making a deal with the US on tariffs and would consider that this is just a temporary setback?
I think it's very much a temporary setback. And again, the tariff implications for Australia are limited. So even if we don't get a deal, I mean, we can sit and swallow 10% tariffs, no problems at all. So it's really not a big issue whether we get a trade deal or not. Obviously, we do want one for the beef exports, but again, it's really not a big deal for Australia. It's more where are relations going, where is the pact with the defence going? They are the bigger issues at play, I think, for Australia.
The US President is placing a lot of pressure on the US Fed Chair Jerome Powell in terms of moving interest rates lower. There is a US Federal Reserve meeting this week. Do you expect to see any kind of change to current monetary settings?
Yeah, I mean, the pressure Donald Trump's putting on Powell is unbelievable, to be honest. What we're going to see from the Fed, though, is a very reserve Fed and even a potential hawkish Fed, because what we're seeing now is some inflation starting to come through, and this conflict is probably going to add more inflation. Obviously, oil is a big input into inflation impulse. So again, the Fed are very going to be in a wait-and-see mode, and I'd expect them to be a touch hawkish rather than being on the dovish side. So it's going to be a very interesting meeting, and I think Donald Trump will be very displeased with Powell after this meeting.
Okay, but Matthew, just to clarify, you're still expecting a hold, a hawkish hold?
Yeah, we think it's a hawkish hold. That's what we expect from the Fed in the meeting this week.
Okay, Matthew Haupt, great to speak to you.